2,
Hold on.
1.
Hold on.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the Lakeview Park Committee meeting for December the 7th, 2021. This is a video teleconference meeting. And with us today are Shannon and Randy from the Hitchcock Group and Squire Muller and Squire Tracy that are on the committee. Myself, Judge Wells. We also have Ann Northcutt, Charlie Lewis, and Robert Hewitt on as well. So with that being said, the first item is called to order. We've called this meeting to order. The second item on the agenda is review the park master plan, and I'll turn it over to Shannon or Randy, either one of you, if you want to lead on the updated version that you've sent us.
All right. Well, thanks, Judge. So we wanted to present to you the updated plan based on the memo that you all sent out after our last presentation. We presented the master plan that was based on obviously the public meetings and the groups that we spoke to and conversations with you all. So we took that master plan and then you all provided us with comments on that. And we have revisited that master plan, and I believe we've got a solution here that solves for the comments that we received. So we wanted to show that to you, and then obviously take any questions, comments, thoughts. But from a process standpoint, from being able to kind of try to keep on schedule, we wanted to get your comments back so that we can finalize the master plan and roll that into the final document. And so with that, I will turn it over to Shannon and she'll walk you through the updated plan.
All right, so I think some of you may have this in front of you, but I'm going to share my screen. We did present two different options, or not two options, but two different pages, one with the labels and one without. Just for legibility reasons, I'm going to go ahead and kind of walk through the one without labels. Whoops, oh, too big. So some of the areas that are going to kind of stay the same are the golf course, amphitheater area. That area kind of stayed the same as was presented originally. And some other areas that will stay the same are the fields, softball fields, and the proposed turf multi-use fields over here. And then you'll kind of see there's a little bit of a different area down here, but we'll kind of talk about that. So the main area that changes is kind of what we're calling this core central area. So we did propose moving the new an entrance into the park to shift in order to accommodate the parking all the way over here. And what's kind of driven this change was moving the building up to meet the existing driving tees, as well as providing a kind of short game complex area over here to again accommodate all the needs that are there for the driving range. So what we've had to do was move the building north and kind of elongate it. So that lost us a lot of parking up here, which shifted the parking down here. Again, I think it's still a solution that will work great. However, some negatives are that some of the parking that's all the way down here is extremely far away from the building. Again, this can be something that is worked through, but we felt that the need to move or shift the entrance over to accommodate all this parking is because we don't want a bunch of parking on the other side of the road that then pedestrians have to cross the main thoroughfare to get to this building. So some other things you'll notice are the addition of 6 tennis courts and 2 full court basketball courts. There would be a restroom shelter over here, as well as some kind of pavilions for anybody wanting to watch or sit and kind of, I guess, be over there. There is parking on that side of the main drive for the tennis and basketball courts as well. So again, we'll kind of follow the main entrance north, and you get to the pull-off for the parking lot. That again is similar to what the layout is right now. It would just be adjusted and expanded to accommodate all the fields. But then we have the Hancock Pavilion, as well as the Robinson Pavilion up here. These two would remain. We have extended we provided some money to extend and update this bathroom, but then the splash pad and playground would then be built off of that existing pavilion.
So, Ann, we heard, the comment, and we had some emails going back and forth about some concern with some of these elements that were in the park that were provided through grants. And, if they were moved, there was concern that would cause some problems. So, in this option, we wanted to try to leave those different elements, because we did hear from the public that they like the elements in the park. They just wanted them upgraded. So we'd leave them in the same location, but the idea is that these different components would then be upgraded to really bring them up to the same level. If you're doing all of these improvements throughout the park, you don't want to have some of these things off to the side that people look at and say, well, these are this was the old park. We want it all to kind of be at the same level of quality.
So again, then with the motorsports arena, that would be expanded, as well as an updated press box with restrooms at this building, as well as some kind of outcropping seating to kind of provide terrace seating there. Otherwise, the other big changes were then the dog park would stay in this main area, just kind of be updated. We'd also provide a drive here that we think would then help to not only with the circulation of the park, but then provide some parking for people who are just there for like the dog park or passive area down here. I mean, we can kind of review all of the other items as well, but those are the big things that we tried to capture. Again, all the new proposed items are over here to the right of the plan. And then we kind of tried to highlight as well some of these other areas that are going to remain, but we'll be providing improvements. So those are the pavilions, the skate park, the existing pickleball, the market area, which we're kind of calling this area, just to, again, better utilize those barns. So that's including the heating of the barns and just better operational uses for that. The golf course and the driving range, the Carter House, and then like the pavilions, like I mentioned. Then some of the other items that we talked about, that would be a partnership opportunity, which would again help with some of these other items that were addressed, would be expanded parking up here, which I know is already something that's in the works, but we talked about maybe potentially working with the neighborhoods to create entrances or pedestrian kind of entries, connections here, as well as maybe working with the school to create championship fields to again incorporate into these tournament opportunities. And we also thought about disc golf and then a cross-country course that would kind of utilize this area to the north of the school as well. So those are the big changes. Again, we kind of worked through quite a few options, but kind of working through the pros and cons. Really, there is an opportunity to really work with a lot of the existing structures and amenities you guys have on site, as well as providing these new and exciting developments as well. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, I guess really quickly, as far as additional restrooms, I know that was a big thing as well. So there's already the restroom in the softball complex that would be updated, but then we are proposing adding restrooms at the dog park area, the tennis and basketball area, as well as the motorsports arena. And then housed within the building would be the restrooms within this recreation convention facility, as well as the amphitheater would have kind of a restroom in there as well. So again, wherever you are in the park, there would be a restroom for utilization.
Charlie, is Mark Kopp on?
Judge, I am on. Sorry, it took me a second to unmute there.
Okay. Shannon, we had the superintendent of schools with us, who's that school property, the white piece in the map. And would you kind of go back over that about those possibilities, and then so we can have this discussion with Mr. Kopp?
Sure. So I can kind of, I'm trying to think. So this shows it a little bit better. But as part of our proposed concept, we were looking not just at the park, but also like more context of Franklin County. And I think it would be in the best interest of the park and the users to be able to utilize this property if obviously we can work out a partnership. A couple of the things we'd like to do is to provide safe passing and a safe connection for students and other neighborhood members to access the park. Again, this would have to be studied more, but creating a safe connection kind of here in this northwest side of the park. Again, a large portion of this project or this concept is turning some turf field or implementing turf fields to provide tournament areas for the park. And we're proposing 3 turf fields within the park, as well as turfing the 4 existing softball fields. But part of a tournament is obviously being able to use as many fields as possible. And so we wanted to propose an opportunity to turf these 2 multi-use fields here, as well as the softball field here, to kind of create what we would call like championship fields. So again, a lot of the, daytime and I guess.
Well, that was really driven by, conversations with Phil, our consultant with Pros, pointing out that, we do have limited space within the park property. There are already quite a few things that are going on there. So with that limited space, but understanding that, just next door, there's some opportunity over here and we did hear in the stakeholder meetings, a desire with various stakeholders to work together. And we thought this might be an opportunity that, hey, if the school corporation was interested in partnering with the park, that we could expand that use into that property. And that's kind of where that stands. We also, I think Shannon talked about the trail. We have heard a desire to be able to have cross-country meets here. And again, we're limited on space. So if we could expand the trail system and improve into there, understanding that cross-country, they're not wanting to run actually on asphalt trails. They want to be able to run on grass.
Right.
We're running out of grass on the park property. So for a number of reasons, we thought it might be a good idea to to bring this up, Mark, and I remember having conversations with you during those stakeholder meetings about how we might get this to work.
So again, this is just a quick overlay of, again, this solution, but how a cross-country course could fit within that property as well as the north property of the park, without having to, go through the main circulation paths or the golf course. So that would be a, high school cross-country course. We'd also proposed, I know disc golf is huge here at Lakeview Park, and we don't want to necessarily lose that. So with this solution, we propose basically shifting some of the holes that are currently in this area into that more kind of wooded, grassy area as well.
Well, if you'll allow me to introduce myself, allow me to say just a few things here.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
First of all, I really appreciate all the effort and that you all put into this. And I'm very much in favor of our community embracing a concept that will allow us to grow and compete with other communities across the state, because it's going to be beneficial for all of us. However, I also have to say, just being open and honest, there's a few things that a few hurdles that we're going to have to at least consider here. Number one, I'm not the decision maker here. I represent a board of 5 people, and they are the decision makers. Now, I obviously can always make a recommendation to them, but ultimately it's going to be up to those 5 people what we do with property that we own. And secondly, having said that, and also wanting to be a willing collaborator with you all, one thing they teach you in superintendent school, and Houston probably knows this from years being an administrator, is if you're a school district and you have land, the one thing that you don't ever do is give up land, especially land where you're going to potentially rebuild and do a new Franklin County High School at some point. And that piece of property has kind of been earmarked for a new Franklin County High School. The current building has been there since the 50s. It did undergo a major renovation in the early 2000s. It is, it's still a really solid building, but within 10 to 15 years, I would imagine that project is going to have to happen. And if there is no place to expand there, we really kind of hamstring ourselves. Having said that, I'm real excited about some of the things that you have talked about here. I'm more than willing to bring those to the board. Obviously, do have a few questions. One, the golf course is staying with this. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, when we would do cross country meets, in the high schools where I was principal athletic director, that was where we ran was on the golf courses. So, those are always pretty good places to have cross country meets. Problem is if you got golf balls flying at you, that tends to inhibit the chance to run effectively. Having said that, that's just something I wanted to know if we were still planning on moving forward with the golf course. Obviously, I know you all have had lots of comments and concerns about the driving range, and some of those have come from our golf coaches. So I am glad to see that you're still willing and able to have a driving range that is really important. Another question I had is when you're looking at those 2 championship fields that you have, if you could kind of zoom in on those. One thing that I don't see there are stands of any kind. So how would you have a championship field where you didn't have places for attendees to watch their kiddos play and all of that?
Well, I think that, from our standpoint, if the school corporation is amenable to that, then yes, of course, those would get into the drawings. But we wanted to float the idea first to find out if it was something that's workable.
Well, I'm trying to look at, its proximity to the baseball field, and I just don't see how you could put stands in there. I mean, when literally it butts up right against the outfield fence. and I can't relocate our baseball field, man, because we're going to be having games and you know.
Right, and these were dropped in on like the standard size, and we would have to take a closer look at that again, because this was a conversation starter. These were mostly just graphic representations of opportunities.
And those
Yeah.
those fields were actually, when we were talking about the championship field, it was the softball field.
Oh,
Okay?
so these would just be extra.
But
Opportunities.
those were just additional fields to bolster, the multi-use fields that were happening within the park. Now we could, with the way those are laid out, we could add stands in that center between the fields. There's some ways to do that, but obviously, we're not dealing with a nailed down survey either. We're drawing this on, GIS information. So
Sure.
we'd have to take a little closer look at it.
Well, let's also talk about the multi-purpose building, because I'm really unclear as to what is all going to be going into that facility.
There we go. All right.
So if you look, I don't know if you actually got a copy, but as when we started talking about the multi-use facility, and this is one of those things that we heard from a number of different people, and everybody seemed to have different ideas about what would go into a multi-use facility. And as we got into this with Phil, he started looking around at what was missing from the area and what this could be used for. So, obviously, sports is a part of it. A building that could hold up to 8 basketball courts, 16 volleyball courts, indoor tennis courts, 24 pickleball courts, futsal, those types of things. Basically, it's just a big open gymnasium that would provide an opportunity to do this. But there's also performance space. There was a desire, and we heard that from actually some of the folks, I think, from the school corporation about looking for performance space. So that would be accommodated in there. And then we also heard a number of folks talking about just exhibit space, if there was going to be some opportunity for a convention. So, it's basically a very flexible space. And obviously right now it's lines on paper. We haven't gotten into the nitty gritty design, but I've been able to identify a number of these uses and approximate how many square feet those uses would require. And then, see what that looks like in plan. How much space does that actually take up? So that's kind of where we are in the master planning process, but it's basically a very flexible building.
Well,
Help me kind of break it down. I've had to break it down into 2 kind of separate uses. One is the kind of recreational space, and that is, again, not going to hold 8 basketball courts and the pickleball courts at the same time. It kind of comes down to programming. But again, that recreation space, because it's open, can then be housed stuff for the fairgrounds and those types of exhibits. It can also then have kind of retractable seating for a full performance of up to 4,000 people. But then while that is its kind of own entity, you then have, conference rooms and meeting rooms for any type of convention. We've also incorporated the golf pro shop and some like outdoor stuff, outdoor patios into that space as well. So that's
hearing the seating for up to 4,000 people for an event, that was really important to us as a school district. Obviously, since the convention center has gone away, we have no place where we can actually hold our graduation without either relying on sunny skies or leaving Franklin County to go to another facility. So that was important to us that could exist, and I'm very hopeful that would be part of the long-term solution there. it looks to me, and looking at the plan, like, those two fields that are next to the baseball field, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm speaking out of turn, it's okay. You can just slap me down. It looks like those two fields are kind of icing on the cake, cherry on top, that, if those could occur, it would obviously provide, extra two fields with which that you could participate on. However, knowing that we have a turf football field and soccer field already on site and another one across town, if my board wasn't willing to give up that piece of property there that could be the site of a future high school, building, it wouldn't be an end all be all.
Right.
And then looking at the softball field, if there was a willingness to convert that to a championship type, venue, I think that's something I could be very open and honest and willing to make that recommendation to the board. We just have to, and I just have to be open and honest here. We just have to always look out for our school district, because no one else is. That's what their job is. And I've got to have a spot where we can build a new Franklin County High School with all of the athletic facilities and all of that stuff, down the road. So having said that, very willing to collaborate, very willing to open up some discussions and have you all come to a board meeting and discuss some of these things at the appropriate time, of course, with our board. And, I just have to also understand that, my paycheck is signed by, the folks that, we're looking out for the future of our school district, first and foremost. But I am very much willing to collaborate, and I really appreciate all of the effort that's gone into this. And I'm frankly very excited about it. And I hope that we can make this happen for our community.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark. I think for the park committee, what we probably need to do within the master plan final document, when we have Phil start to run the numbers and provide kind of the financial understanding of this, is, option A is just what's going to happen within the current park boundary lines, and then have an appendix that says, oh, by the way, if you were able to add these fields adjacent on the school property, this is what the impact would be. And that way, when you decide to have the conversation at some point, you've got some numbers that you can take to the school school folks and be able to share, this is what the opportunity is from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, that sounds like a very good idea.
Randy, while we have Mark on there, are you defining a championship field as one that has AstroTurf or whatever kind of grass, a turf type fielding?
Yes, it'd be a turf field. Seating would be upgraded, basically an upgraded field. From a sports tourism standpoint, being able to have some type of field where, as you go through your tournament, you get down to that final game. You can use it throughout the tournament, but you get on the final game, you play on that field, and it's just a better experience for the players and the family.
And again, it's just because it's an opportunity as far as location and proximity. There's no reason why you can't still have tournaments within that 4 fields. It's just kind of, again, with it being so close, it just makes sense as far as a direct tourism opportunity.
As part of the master plan, there is a financial part where, so you're thinking that where that softball field is, that the county would come in and pay for the turf and pay for the new facility itself to upgrade it? Is that what you're thinking that we should be doing?
Potentially. And that's something where I wish we had Phil on the call. He wasn't able to be on here, I don't think. As far as where we are right now, we're just looking at it and understanding, and we want you to understand that you can upgrade the 4 fields, and it would be a great benefit to the community. If you added that, it's icing on the cake. It just makes it that much better. But we haven't run all the numbers, and obviously we need to talk through, it's going to cost X. Is that something that the park and the school corporation could work out together? Or is it something that the park would need to pay for itself? Those are all conversations that would need to be had once you actually talked with the school corporation and they decided whether or not they were going to allow you to do it.
Right now, these additional championship courts are not included in the cost estimate. So it's not something that we would, assume as part of this project. Again, it's just something that would be worthwhile looking into down the road, as well as, again, if you're doing, 4 fields, sometimes you can cut costs by, again, accumulating all of them together.
At this point, we just wanted to show hey, there's an opportunity here. Should you choose to work together and be able to work together, there's an opportunity to make this even better if you choose to.
So Mark, would you recommend that where you see number 1, number 2, and number 4 with the 2 fields and 5, that's all your property, that you would recommend that we keep that on the back burner as a possibility down the road? Is that what you would recommend?
It's hard for me to make a recommendation until I actually, really dive into those. I haven't physically seen them other than on my little telephone here. So I'm hesitant to make any recommendation other than to say, I'm very willing to collaborate with you all. And, I really hope that we can work something out, but ultimately that decision will be up to the 5 people that evaluate me. And I'll be glad to, once I get these documents and am able to kind of look through them, I think I'd be much more able and willing at that point to make a formal recommendation. Informally, I'll just say I'm really hopeful that we all can work together for the betterment of our community, and just knowing those tenants in front, that I do have to always look out for our school system first, but more than willing to work with y'all.
And I think looking long term, the only things that would be permanent then would be, the upgrades to the fields. The cross-country course isn't, permanent pavement, and the disc golf course, again, is one of the easiest things to be shifted around. So again, I think for the short term, a lot of these improvements could be worked out as a partnership. And that's what we're proposing. We're not necessarily saying by putting it in the master plan, these things will happen.
Just for your consideration.
Yeah. But I appreciate you being on here and your comments.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate you having me on. Judge, thank you for letting me take part here.
Well, we appreciate you taking part. Before you go, there might be some questions. Mark, you got a second? I'll leave that to Squire Muller's got his hand up, and it may be for you. I don't know.
Yes, and if I could also add one thing real quick, I'm sorry, Judge. Just put on your calendar, January 3rd, it's a Monday. That's our school board recognition time. We always have you come and read the proclamation. We're actually going to have a little reception for our board members that night, starting about 4:30, and then the meeting starts at 6. I'll send you a formal invitation, everything, but just wanted you to get it on your calendar. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Squire Muller, you have a question for Mr. Kopp?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Kopp, thank you for being with us today. I do understand what you're saying. The one thing I would like to, if you convey something to your school board, just looking at this screen, I think would be very, important to come up with a better trail. Where that number 5 is on top of the screen. There's been a lot of, I've received a lot of complaints about kids in that street, safety wise, as far as kids being hit by a car or something. So one thing that and I think Shannon touched on it, I think it would be very good to work with you all to put in a trail that would lead along the property line there on your property to the school. So I just wanted to kind of say that just to.
Sure. I think that's something that our board would be very amenable to doing. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Squire Tracy, do you have anything for Mr. Kopp?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Kopp, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Obviously, you know what a project of this magnitude can do for a community coming from E-Town. So let's try to get it done.
I agree. Let's try to work together and grow this community, open it up to a lot of opportunities, and just understand that there are those things that I have to do as the superintendent and in making a recommendation. So just keep those things in mind, but also keep in mind that I've been banging the table since I've been here in 2017 that, hey, let's look for ways that we can work together. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Mr. Kopp, thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, you've heard Shannon and Randy talk, so let's open the floor now for discussion. Charlie, you want to go first? You haven't said anything. Do you have some things you want to discuss?
Thanks, Judge, and thanks, committee. And again, I want to thank Mr. Kopp for being on today. We appreciate his input and his time. One of the other things that kind of jumped out at me with the school board property over there, number 3, that parking area, we've had some safety concerns there as well. That might be an amenity that we can move forward with whether we enhance these fields or if and when we do enhance these fields. That parking lot is still used and it's not really defined. It could be improved for safety reasons for sure. So I just want to throw that out there while we were kind of on that area. But other than that, I see a full boat right here, a park full of lots of activities for the community. I think it's pretty neat. I know we're all going to be interested in how we come up with the funding. That's going to be very, very important as we move forward, but laying it all out here on the map, there's a lot to do at Lakeview Park, and it's awesome. And so I'll leave it at that. You guys can go ahead and comment. But this is pretty neat. I'm happy to be involved. I can tell you that.
All right, Tracy, you had your hand up.
I did. I was just wanting to ask Charlie. Charlie, that parking lot's been topic of discussion for what seems to be 5 or 6 years. Obviously, the school board, I believe, was open to us doing some work back there. Can you tell me where that's at? I know at one time, I think you said it was in the county attorney's office. Is it still there?
Yeah.
Or do you have any idea what the holdup is?
We kind of got to where it was who was going to bring it to each other's board first, or who needed to approve it first and then send it over to the other board, with school board or fiscal court, the cart before the horse type thing. But yeah, I met with one of the assistant superintendents back there to show them what we were interested in doing to make some improvements. So after that, it just kind of died down. So I'll be happy to revisit that and kind of get those conversations going again for that particular spot.
Charlie, if you, there's Mark Kopp. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I'm still on here, and yeah, we'd be more than happy to meet with you, Charlie, and any of the magistrates or judge. So yeah, we'd be very happy to meet with you and kind of get that ball rolling again.
Yeah,
Okay.
Charlie, what I'd like for you to do is get with Robert so you can get the exact, look at it from the several different maps, so we can take that to Mark Kopp and have him look at it, and then and we can discuss what's the next steps from there. I don't, it doesn't look like that would be in the way of a new school. That looks like that's one of the easy things we could get worked out. Hopefully, nothing's easy, but the easier things. Mark, as you know, nothing is easy. All right, so you're amenable to that, Mark? Well, if Charlie, so there's a next step for you on that one to work out with that, and we'll get us together, and we'll talk about it. Have several maps looking at it from 10,000 feet. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do. Matter of fact, I think we already have got a map started on that. So I'll get with Robert. We'll get that pulled up.
Okay, that's good. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back on, Mark. Robert, do you want to say something? And anytime the magistrates want to say something, just raise your hand.
I have just a couple of questions as I compare both versions of the master plan. I see in both of them that the guardhouse is gone. Were there provisions to accommodate for our security personnel?
No, those were taken out, and both of them, they can still remain. That is something that we have not talked about. And I think that would become part of the operations and maintenance communications, just because, again, all of these improvements will require a lot more just on hand. So that is not something that's been addressed, but we will need to kind of discuss with the committee how they want to move forward with that. And both of them, there is room to keep it, but you're right, we're not showing it.
All right, and then next, in your revised draft master plan, the multi-use facility identified as item 4 on here the footprint has been reconfigured.
Yeah.
Did the square footage stay the same?
Square footage stayed the same. It's kind of squished down and elongated.
Okay, and then in your plan, do you feel as though that the parking areas are going to be adequate to serve the capacity or anticipated capacity of the building?
Yes, that is why, again, this one's not as ideal, just because as far as, just squishing a lot in that space, just because it shifts the parking away from it. But yes, the parking will accommodate the plan or the building. Again, that's going to have to be studied quite a bit when we come to final deliverable of the building, just because, again, you're proposing so many certain programs going on within the building. So it's kind of like designing for that Black Friday where there's something going on everywhere. So that's unfortunately why you see so much parking on the plan. But as of right now, that's how we have to kind of develop the concept.
Okay, and then my last question, I promise. With all the restroom facilities shown on here, which I think is wonderful, I think sewer installation, new sanitary sewer installation is going to be a bit challenging. The city of Frankfort is still moving forward with their proposed pump station. I hope to have some easement documents for the committee and the court to review soon. Didn't know if, since this plan was delayed slightly so that we could get the proposed pump station design or location to you all, do you intend to potentially utilize this asset if it becomes a reality down there by the number 6 green down by the pump house?
Oh, here.
Well, actually, it's on the it's to the west of or to the plan view left of Red 5.
Over here.
Yeah, generally in that vicinity. So
So what was your question?
would we like a new pump?
That's, first of all, we gotta land on the plan. And if, we heard in the last memo, hey, we want to see a lot more restrooms in the park. So we've got restrooms in the park now. We've got if this is what people want to see, there's a way to engineer it. So we'll have to talk with BFW and make sure that pump station, if it won't support that many restrooms, then that may, tell us that, well, you can't have that many restrooms in the plan. But as of right now, we were just showing, here's where the restrooms might go. The next, once we get past the master planning phase is when we start talking about the details and how's this actually going to be engineered. So I don't know that I totally answered your question, but we have not studied it to that level yet.
Okay, well, the reason I bring that up is because the Carter House, the office, the Hancock Pavilion are all served by a private force main. We are working with the sewer department now to try to convert at least the office and the Carter House into a gravity system that goes to the new pump station. And I just know that sewer design and construction is extremely expensive. And I didn't know if any of the utility relocation or construction elements were part of this draft, or are we looking at just the surface physical improvements that were part of your project estimate?
Yeah, right now it's just big picture, but that is a good, we'll bring that up with BFW and talk to them about that, and make sure that we're not that we haven't shown something that's just impossible.
All right, and I'm sorry, one last question. Stormwater detention is in here, is item number 9, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and those are the only 2 basins that you've got proposed?
There,
Right now.
as of right now, but we're also understanding that there's probably, given the amount of surface being added to the park, and really being required by the program, we're probably going to have to look at some green infrastructure. There may have to be some underground detention. But again, we haven't got to that point yet, but it's coming.
All right, great. And that green infrastructure, I'm glad you brought that up because Franklin County is a co-permittee of the KPDES Phase 2 program. And if the county could incorporate green infrastructure to accommodate stormwater runoff, that looks great for Franklin County and great for our permit. So
Good.
I hope you could consider that. And with that, that's my last question. Thank you, Judge and committee and Hancock Group.
Awesome.
Miss Annie?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I had sent Shannon a question, and I'm hoping that she can elaborate on it a little bit. We currently have 1.6 miles of exercise trail.
I think you might have froze.
And you're frozen?
Well, I know what she asked. I'm sorry, I couldn't expand on
Throughout that whole,
it. Now you're on mute.
And you're on mute
How
and
about-
you were frozen.
Oh.
She did. Oh, wow.
Well, I know she was asking about the existing amount of trails within the park and making sure that we either maintain as well as expand.
okay, now can you hear me?
There you go.
Yes. Okay. No.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ann.
Can you show where that, where the trails are still throughout the northern part of the park?
Yeah, so they would still, basically this entire area, we then add kind of this medium trail, and then running all along here, that whole trail would still exist. So what we would have to rebuild is basically all the trails again through here.
Okay, but those are planned to be rebuilt?
These, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so we'll, again, because of those are the, grant awarded, we will make sure that's addressed and in the plan.
thank you.
Yep.
Is that it, Ann?
Yes, thank you.
So I thought you would ask, so I'll ask for you as part of what we've been applying for is, I guess it's the grant to put the sidewalks in. Shannon and Randy, first thing, you all said you're going to redo the entrance and the road coming in. You're looking at doing that. So tell us a little bit more about what that's going to entail, and because we have a grant awarded about putting a sidewalk in, will that affect that?
Correct. We did propose basically the existing road kind of goes like this right now to then kind of meet up with this little arch. We've shifted it a little bit to again accommodate all the parking for the building. I do not believe we might have to resubmit a plan just to show them, but because the grant is for a sidewalk at the entrance, and did show us the plan that she proposed, I can't imagine, again, we're still doing a really similar entrance and sidewalk. So I don't think that should affect that
Yeah, it's
at
just
all.
a matter of shifting it around. There's still gonna be a sidewalk that goes in there.
Okay. Okay. All right. I like that idea. I think that's a good idea. The next one is the splash pad. I kind of want a little clarification. You're saying that that you are recommending that we redo and enlarge the splash pad where it approximately where it is, but move it over just a little bit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Just to, again, create more of again, this will give everybody more of a circulation kind of off of that existing pavilion. And it creates kind of more of a core space where children can access the splash pad or the playground while all of users are either in the Hancock Pavilion or we have proposed another structure here. So again, it's just kind of reworking and just better utilizing the space for the users.
Okay.
So this is expanding it. I think it's about 2,400 or 2,400 square feet right now. And we proposed basically just to bump it up to about 3,500. But the playground does expand quite a bit. At least that's what we're proposing.
Okay. And you don't see that as a problem based on the grant that we got the splash pad with?
As long as we still have equal.
What is wrong? What do you think?
I don't know. The other day when she had this issue, her battery was low on her laptop.
And could your battery be low on your?
Well,
on your-
to what sorry, we've been having power problems.
Okay. We're not hearing anything that you're saying. You're freezing again.
Again, just to mention, we had these conversations with Ann on quite a bit of the different opportunities, and what we kind of concluded was that basically all these amenities that were awarded with federal funds, as long as we have the existing
Okay.
or better, will work.
Okay. All right. Shannon kind of gave us the rundown that it will work, Ann. You're frozen. I think you're frozen again. And we'll just let you try to get in whenever you can. The next one I see, and it's going to. We had talked about it earlier on the driving range netting. There's without question going to have to be a netting now down the side of the where the parking lot is. We'll have to have some. Looks like it would only need to be on one side, though. I think right now it would be good on two sides, Charlie.
Yeah.
Where would be the other side?
We both left and right. That's needed now. Yeah, the ball control goes, we need to narrow that down and keep that defined and define that driving range better. And that would create, balls are flying over into number one fairway. So there's some safety concern there. And then obviously with the parking lot shown on this map, we would want to net that side as well. The end out by the road if they're moving that facility back to a similar footprint to what we have now, lengthwise, we should be fine, or at least with a short net. But left and right sides of that driving range need to be netted today.
Okay, all right, so,
You know,
I have a comment from Ann. Ann's going to put her questions in the chat box since she's having connection issues. And she said her comment on the splash pad is a larger pad would probably require a recirculating system, which would add a significant cost.
Yes.
okay, Randy and Shannon, the next item on the agenda is authorization to receive this park draft master plan. And then also after that is, I guess, the next steps. What are the next steps? Where do we go from here and moving forward? You all want to talk about that?
Sure. So our next steps, according to our scope, are really kind of wrapping this up and putting a bow on it. In order to do a lot of the operational standards and the engineering recommendations that Robert's asked about, we need to have a plan. So again, this might shift a little bit according to anything that again come from the next stages as far as operational implementation and engineering. But for the most part, if we can get authorization to move forward with either, this plan or the, plan we presented, or this plan with a few comments, then we can really get those next stages and we can get BFW and we can get Phil moving forward. And then we can, again, finalize the report and the final presentation so that we can present to the community. At this point, it'll be 2022.
Okay, now, I just want to, it's always been my thought that we wouldn't finalize the plan. We would have close to that, but it's not fair to the community for us to present this and ask them to give their comments, but not listen to their comments. So how does that work if we're going to have a public hearing on this is what we've got, and we ask you for your comments, but then thank you for sharing them, but we're not going to listen to them.
Well, this is based on the scope of work that we submitted. And so the thought was that as we go through this design process, we're having, all these meetings are televised or on Facebook, that as feedback came back, then we were trying to be as expeditious with your time and funding as possible. So, based on what we've heard, and we had the committee gave us a pretty good list of comments after our first presentation. We assumed that was, based on your knowledge of the project and, conversations with the community. But what we're trying to do is get this locked down to something where we can finalize it and get the numbers, because we haven't been able to work out the number side of this and the operations side, and then present that out to the community. Once it's presented, it's a master plan, so it's a playbook. It's still malleable and changeable, but at some point we've got to lock down the plan so we can get all the other backup information from Phil and our other consultants to round it out. But I feel pretty confident based on what we have on, in either plan, that we have met the goals and aspirations of what we heard from the public through the surveys and the stakeholder meetings, and then the on-site time that we spent in the park. So that was kind of where we were headed.
Yeah, that was kind of the community input area, was the, that initial phase where we did the community events and everything. That was where we were trying to get all the input we could, so then we could move forward with this master plan.
Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge. Randy, Shannon, I'd like to circle back to this new plan that you all are presenting. Right or wrong, there was, in the original plan, there was a recommendation to net the driving range, all three areas.
Yes.
Is that right, left, and in? Okay. All right. And on this new plan here, I see that it looks like the driving range has been extended. How long is the driving range now?
So this was an error at 340. It's 300 yards with this current graphic.
Okay. And what in total, what is that compared to the other one was what, 270?
Charlie, do you know what the other one was?
That's correct, 270.
Okay. All right. Quiz of the day, Charlie. You know what the average distance for an amateur male golfer is in regards to driving a golf ball?
I'm going to bet you do.
216 yards. You know what Brooks Koepka's average is?
318.
Pretty close, 314.
You're getting into the technical aspects, and if you really want to know the technical aspects.
No, I just Judge. I'm just asking. I was just asking. I'm just, we heard a lot about concerns in regards to the driving range and nets and hitting and so forth, and I just was asking Charlie a question, so I just wanted to make sure. So, Randy or Shannon, question: is there anything being proposed on this new plan that was not identified during the community surveys, the public engagement event, and/or during the regional needs assessment?
If you go down on the plan, yeah, basically everything on the right-hand side of the plan was what we heard through the public survey and public process. And then on the bottom of the plan, where we're showing, we talk about some of these additional amenities. Well, actually not the additional amenities, over the minor improvements. I think the tennis courts were one of them that wasn't at the top of the priority list. The basketball courts were not on the top of the priority list. Now, we did hear numerous people say they like the existing amenities within the park, but they needed to be upgraded. We heard that over and over. I had numerous conversations when we were in the park that day with people that liked the park or liked the amenities, but wanted them better. So, really what you're looking at there is the two additional things were really the basketball courts and the tennis courts.
Yeah, but wasn't disc golf was one of the most popular ones, and it's been taken off. Isn't that true?
It's still on the plan. It's just having to look at a partnership for an opportunity to provide it.
Yeah.
Also, indoor swimming is one of the top, and it's not in there, is it?
Correct. That's not in there at all.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Randy, can you touch on why? I guess it would be Phil. I don't know if you want to speak for Phil or not, but I know we talked about the indoor swimming. Can you touch on why that particular program was not proposed in regards to this plan?
I would have to, well, I don't know if Phil's made it on here. He was.
I have.
Have you? Can you?
Yep.
That, Phil?
Yeah. So when we ran, and I'm apologize, I'm driving to the committee right now, so I don't have everything in front of me. But from my recollection, when we ran swimming through the guidelines, the principles that we were given from the kickoff committee, as well as the revenue potential and the regional and or regional draw and local use, that the aquatics serve more of a local use, and aquatic centers, indoor aquatic centers by themselves have a difficult time generating revenue unless there is a very large sustainable user group within that area. Otherwise, they have to coincide within a building with multiple amenities, typical of what you would see of a multi-generational indoor community and recreation center nowadays, that are anywhere from 45,000 on up in square footage. So the additional amenities with that are asked for as well too. However, collectively is the only way that they generate enough revenue. That also is going to increase the overall cost of improvements exponentially, well beyond what we've discussed up to this point. So while it did come in #1 from a local community, it didn't meet all of the principles and or the ability to serve all as what was asked for by the committee. I think you'll recall that in the presentation, we also felt that it was a strong possibility to include and potentially on another site, not just the Lakeview Park, but one of the other comments that community members wanted was for the county to also look at additional parks, meaning additional park land to use for parks and recreation purposes. But that also there's an opportunity through partnerships, potentially on those those parcels still there by the Kentucky the Kentucky Special Olympics. There's a potential for a partnership with a hotel to actually have that as their amenity and potentially offer opportunities to those who are not just staying there if it's an aquatic center of significant size. So the county would be able to provide it through partnership and not have to bear all of the cost associated with it.
Okay, thank you.
So Scotty, was that tennis question pointed at me? Because I'd like to come back and say this. The items listed below focus on outdoor amenities and facilities improvements. So if you go down to what those that took this survey said were the least important, enhanced skate park, environmental interpretive signs, improved motorsports, those are all in there. Improved buildings used for county fair, and the lowest is tennis courts for least important, as well as amphitheaters. So those, so obviously it was very important. It was important to people in this community, if we're listening to people in the community. So
you just said it was the least important. No, Judge, it wasn't actually. It wasn't
the least important was very unimportant, the lowest percentage.
But it's important to you. And what I'm trying to say is this committee.
It's not just important to me. It's not.
Judge, would you let me speak?
It's not important to me.
Please?
It's important
Judge,
to the community.
Can I speak, please?
You can.
Thank you. This committee was also told by you that there were 4 tennis courts in the community. There's actually 26 tennis courts within a 6-mile radius of Lakeview Park. 6 being at Western Hills, 6 being at Franklin County, 6 being at Kentucky State, 4 being on the river, and 4 being at Juniper Hills. So there's 26 tennis courts within a 6-mile radius. Several times you've mentioned money, 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 but yet we're adding programs. Again, it doesn't have to all be done, and it doesn't have to be shut down because you don't get what you want. I mean, it's okay. The program, it didn't rise to the top. And not only that, we've had a professional off this firm and a professional off of Brandsetter Carroll, both made the comment that tennis was a dying sport. That's not my comments. That's their comments.
I don't agree with that. I never saw that.
We can agree to disagree.
Well, first of all, what do you mean doesn't have to be shut down? What are you shutting down? And
I don't know what you're talking about shutting down.
That's just what you said. It doesn't have to be shut down. I don't know what you're saying.
Judge, we're to a point now that the firm has done their job. The firm has
That's
done
what
their
I'm
job.
saying. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. Okay. The firm took the community engagement. They took the surveys. They done the engagement day at the park. They've done the regional needs assessment. They came back with a proposed plan. Some didn't like it. Two voting members of the committee said, let's go with it. All this stuff has been sent back. Randy touched on it today. They've been receiving stuff back and forth, changes. The public has spoken to make changes to and or go against a project that's based off of our community's input and or regional needs would not only be selfish, it would be self-serving. The court hired a professional firm, not only a professional firm, a proven firm, 80% build out to do the job. They've done it. I support the original plan that was presented and proposed to the park committee. And I also sent it in an email the other day that it be on this agenda to be voted on, to be approved.
So you're saying we don't need, the public input is not, public input is not important. It's over. The public, 1,200 people, 1,000 people commented and that's it. So we heard it. So everything is designed. It's over. We're going to tell you this is what we're going to do. You've told us, we're telling you. That's your point.
That's not where I'm at, Judge. They're bringing it back. But what I'm saying is they can't even bring us back a money analysis, a revenue analysis. They can't get to the next point because people won't stop sending stuff. You need to add this. You need to add that. You need to add. They've already done all that. They've done their homework. The community has spoken. It will come back. But we've got to move this forward, Judge. That's all I'm saying. We've got to move it forward.
I'm not stopping it at all. I don't know where you're talking about. It is clear in their master plan forms, they agreed that they would do a public input. Public input means public input. It doesn't mean this is it, you don't get to say anything. Public input means a public input. And that's all I'm saying. And I don't know where you're coming from that I'm stopping it. I'm not stopping a thing. Let's go. Let's go. Let's send this on and let's take it to them. But I do think the public needs to have input.
Judge, we can't have a public input until we get the revenue streams back. We can't do one without doing.
What is stopping that?
Let's go.
Would you please tell me what is stopping that?
Individuals that want to add programs to a plan that was driven by the community. Right here, next steps, finalize the plan.
They have redone this plan. So you're saying don't accept what they just redid?
Judge, that's not the original plan. That's not the original plan. That was a bunch of stuff that was added on. And you said by the committee, and that's not accurate. The committee never voted on anything to send back. That's what I'm saying. Let's just go.
I'm going to put on the table there is a recommendation that we don't even have the original plan in front of us, that the original plan, remember the original plan removed the driving range. And so that's what you want to do.
It did not, Judge. It did not remove it. Randy, Shannon, did the original plan remove the driving range? Yes or no?
If this is the plan you guys are referring to, the one we presented in early November, then no, the driving range was never removed.
It's just.
Thank you.
It's shorter. This was netted on 3 sides and it wasn't developed with the T drives and stuff like that. But no, the driving range was never removed.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Now, with that being said, if this plan is agreed upon, that doesn't make the location of that building, that doesn't mean that that building cannot be set back, correct? That's all part of when the actual, if this is all a go and it goes, that doesn't mean that the facility cannot be moved back some to allow outdoor green space, practice space, driving space. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. That doesn't mean that this is just a plan per se. It's not set in stone. Is that accurate?
Then why would you be against the second one? Because the second one offers a little more stuff. There's nothing set in stone in the second one either.
Correct.
Randy,
Yes.
in regards to the building and this community-driven plan, does that not mean that it can be configured to where you have everything that I mentioned?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
I'm not sure I understand where he's going
The
either.
footprint is going to have, in order to meet what the community wanted, what the stakeholders wanted, it's going to have to meet the program, which was presented to meet that about 160,000 square feet.
Correct.
That is flexible as far as the footprint goes. However, it does matter kind of the footprint, like as you see, a lot of things shift as we shift the building. Again, the next phase of, not part of the master plan, but the next phase will have to dive into the actual building construction and footprint.
And engineering.
And engineering.
Correct.
So
Correct.
both of these plans basically show all the puzzle pieces or the kit of parts and how they can fit in the park. Okay. The original plan, we looked at, okay, what would be ideal? Well, ideal would be keeping parking as close to the building, or so you don't have it so far to walk. But something's got to give, so we had to shorten the driving range. We moved and tweaked some things around, some of the amenities around. We kept them, but obviously Ann did let us know that there's some concern there from the grant program. So we, then when we did the second plan, which we presented today, we said, okay, this is how we can solve for all these other problems. We can keep all the original uses in, but we can also incorporate some of the other things that were listed on that document that we received from Charlie. So bottom line is the committee needs to take a look at both plans and decide. If you really want to just totally simplify it, it's a matter of, do you want all the restrooms because we added additional restrooms? Do you want do you want to put the tennis courts and the basketball courts in? And if you go back to the original plan, we're showing 2 open fields there as you drive into the entrance. Those could go there. This is all on paper, so we can make that fit. But it's a matter of, we just need some direction from the committee as to if you want to keep all the uses that are in that document we received from Charlie, okay. If you decide we want to go with was originally presented, that's okay too. We can do either. We just need direction from the committee.
As
Okay,
a
thank
reminder,
you.
this one, doesn't accommodate the volleyball. That was a big thing we got back in the memo. So that was another big aspect of the new plan. And this also doesn't obviously doesn't have the tennis or basketball courts. So I think, and this one obviously did not keep either the Hancock or Robinson pavilions. So just trying to, again, help.
So the first plan eliminates the the Hancock building. It eliminates the Robinson Pavilion. Isn't that correct?
Mm-hmm.
It does, yeah. And again, it could be reworked to save those, but again, it would require a shifting of the road. Again, especially with the volleyball court, because I think the volleyball is right in here. So, and that's when we were, when we we're looking at this concept. We did look at a couple different things of trying to keep this here, that here, but really this was the best solution to really keep all of the existing structures while still creating quite, I think, would be a really pleasant circulation for users that still keeps the identity of Lakeview Park while again allowing a whole bunch of different users to utilize the park.
When you're doing a master plan, wouldn't it be better to put everything in that you possibly could get in, knowing that there's flexibility in moving things around, as opposed to not putting something in and then having to come and try to figure out how to get it in there?
Yes, I mean.
So that's why we should look at the second version over the first version, because there's nothing saying we have to put everything in there. It just gives us a plan, which is a master plan to look at. Is that not right, Randy? Wouldn't you say that's what a master plan is for?
That's why communities do master planning.
All right, Squire Muller, you've been waiting a long time. Go ahead.
Well, I have a couple of things, Judge, but I know Mr. Kopp has had his hand up probably longer than me, so.
All right, I don't see it. I'm sorry, I don't see him on there. My screen doesn't show it. Mark Kopp?
Well, hey, thank you very much. And I'm sorry I just want to interject one thing real fast. And it's not even pertinent to the discussion that you're having right now, but just something to think about for the future. Because of the popularity of a swimming facility, and it was number one in the community and all that, really love for y'all to keep that in mind. If not for this project, for a future project, something that we could collaborate with you all on. Right now, we have to send our swimming teams to Shelby County and to Woodford County so that they can practice. The KSU pool, the boiler broke, and they're not able to, with their financial situation, to fix that. So we're sending two really good swimming teams outside of our district to even practice. So we'd love to be able to work with you on something in the future for that. Now I'll be quiet and leave you back to it, but thank you for listening. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Squire Muller?
All right, thank you, Judge. Yeah, I kind of lost my bearings a little bit. So I'd like to back up a little bit if you don't mind. Randy, Shannon, Phil, thanks for being on again. Appreciate all the work y'all are putting into this. So just for the people watching, the original master plan that you all provided to us was created from input and regional needs, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the second plan that we have here, and sorry, I'm looking at it on my desk here. All the additions just came, I guess, from staff and judge, right? Is that what we did?
It came from you all too.
No, Judge.
Yes, it did. You said you wanted more restrooms.
Well, restrooms are the exception, I think.
Okay, more restrooms are in there. You said you wanted the driving range done differently.
No, I didn't. I specifically said I was ready to move on with the first plan, and I passed up on my call every time. So, okay, I was just wanting to clarify where it came from. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I thought we went down a list 2 meetings ago and we said, do you want to keep something in or take it out? Squire Muller and Squire Tracy, you all said take the driving range out. It's on tape. And everybody, we've seen it 50 times where it says, you all said, take it out. So I don't know where you're coming from that we didn't change. This whole process has been a collaborative effort on all of us trying to work together to put things in, take things out, to meet the community's needs, not my needs, not your needs, Scotty, not yours, Michael, but the community's needs. The more that's in there, based on what I see, the more we are trying to represent the community. And is it going to happen? Is everything that's in that plan going to go in there? I don't think so. At least not for a long time. Yeah, Michael, and come to think of it, I believe you asked to do a kayak or a canoe drop-off station out there. Remember, we were putting out things and you said it'd be nice to have a pickup station, sorry, not drop-off, pickup station for the creek. But anyway, lots of things have been proposed. And what we're trying to do is listen to the people. You all are saying that the first plan is good enough. Is that what is there I don't know. I'm tired of arguing about it. I think it's shameful, to be honest with you. I'm ashamed that we can't put as many things as we can possibly get into Lakeview Park and work towards getting as many things as we can in Lakeview Park. But because that's what the people have asked for, and that's what you're satisfied with just straight up. I don't know. I don't understand you guys. I thought you guys were more amenable to listening to what people want, not what you want. So Squire Muller, answer the question, whatever you want.
Thank you, Judge. Well, I mean, I'm assuming, I guess I could shoot this towards Randy. When you proposed this master plan, I'm assuming that was your firm's best work and what you saw use of space. Because I remember we spoke about putting too many things, we were already crammed for space. And when I look at this new proposed space, I almost have anxiety about how many things are there. That's not a really good Arboretum feel park. Can you speak on that just a little bit?
Thank you. Well, the original plan that we put together was based on the program that we put together and shared with you all. Now, it's an iterative process. So, that was, from our perspective, looking at it, the highest and best use of the property. Now, that being said, every community is different, and they're obviously people are going to have their opinions about, hey, what if we tweak this or move things around a little bit. This plan that we showed today took the comments that we received from Charlie, which we assumed came from
It did. It came from us.
So we took those comments and said, okay, how do we integrate these comments and concerns into that previous plan? And that's what we're showing here today to give you a different look. It's still on paper, so things are malleable. Even when the master plan document is completely done, it's a playbook. I've said that in the past. It's a playbook, it's malleable, it can be changed. But we felt, based on those comments, we wanted to show you, here's how this could play out by adding those into the park. There's a lot going on in the park. In both plans. And, basically from my perspective, what I heard in the public input process was there is a lot of pent up wants and needs in the community. And we're showing a lot of them in this plan. There's a lot being placed in this park. From my perspective, from Shannon's perspective, we're the consultant. We're trying to show you, here's how you can fit these things into your park, and still make it work and make it a pleasant place to come and visit. It's all up to you to decide what you want to keep in or keep out. But the original plan was based on only public input. The second plan was based on public input and what we believe was the park committee memo. And Judge, I think to your earlier point, you were asking about being able to present to the public. In our scope of work, the previous presentation, I think we were originally going to do that on site, but I'm not sure why that ended up being, I think it was a scheduling issue with everybody being able to be involved. And so it ended up being a virtual meeting. But even at that, it was a public meeting. It wasn't necessarily like we did when we went to the park that day, and we were actively asking people to, write down their comments and give us comments. It's a public process that would allow people to comment if they had comments, or at least be able to understand what was happening with the park. And again, when we do the final one, it's still on paper. So even when we present it and we present the numbers and here's how it all works, there's still an opportunity for, and I would completely expect the park committee to hear from members of the community and, asking about this, or what about, could we have bigger dog area, whatever. And those are changes that can come along when you decide to move the project forward. This is the overall 30,000, foot view of what Lakeview Park can become. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. I hope so.
No, you did, Randy. I appreciate it. I just, I'm just looking at both of them and just listening to all the conversations being had. I guess at this point, I'll say kind of what I said in the last park meeting, that I'm ready to move forward with the original master plan that the Hitchcock provided the first time. So that's where I'm at, Judge.
Can I ask you why not the second one?
Honestly, because when we started this process, and one of the reasons I went with the Hitchcock group was because of their professionalism and how many years they've done this. And one of the things that sold me on them, and they weren't my first pick, and I've said that until they spoke about it, they wanted to create a park atmosphere that was enjoyable and kind of like an arboretum. And obviously that's in my wheelhouse because that's what I do for a living. I've been to parks all over the country, all over the place. And the way they have it laid out and the way it's going to function and move, it just feels right to me. So that's why I'm voting that way.
Squire Tracy?
I've already said what I had to say. Again, this was a public, the public has spoken to make changes to and or go against a project that's based off of the input and the regional needs would just be going against what the court voted for. And again, I think this firm is proven. They're professional and they're doing the job. So I too, like I previously said, and also like an email that I sent in to Charlie requesting that it be put on the agenda, support and vote for the original plan.
Randy and Shannon, I want to say this. I appreciate you, and I'm sorry that you got in the middle of this today. I had no idea this was. I knew that Squire Tracy wanted to bring the other one up, but I think you've done what we've asked you to do. You've listened to. If you weren't in our last meeting, and it was agreed upon 2 meetings ago that we would have a meeting within ourselves, our committee, without you, and we would discuss options. So those options came up, and you put them in there, and you did a nice job. And I agree with you, Randy. And I think you said it in as nice a way as you can say it. Why have a master plan that doesn't put everything in is to the best of your ability that people in the community said they want. Why are we trying to keep things from being in there? I don't understand that. I'll never understand that. And I don't think it's right for our community. So the next, obviously I've lost this battle and I've lost several of them as we've gone through. But the point is that this is not about whether this committee wins or loses. This should be about whether the community wins or loses. Now, Randy, what is the next step from here?
Okay, we're unmuted. All right. So the next step is for us to finalize the plan. And Phil needs to put together his information and data. We'll need to talk with BFW. I do think there were some legitimate concerns that came out about the restrooms and the sanitary sewer. So we'll want to nail some of those things down and make sure that we've got that covered, and then prepare the document that will then provide you with a way to move forward. I do think that we'll need to, when Mark was on, we talked about, I think we're probably going to need to do show the suggestions we're making for the school property or the opportunities, treat that as an index or an appendix to the master plan, so that the park committee, should they choose to move forward with any of those improvements, they've got the information to be able to have that conversation. And then as soon as we can get the final document put together, come down and do a public presentation of it and present it to you all.
Yeah, we're going to do it in probably the Paul Sawyer Library. It'll be around between 4:30 and 6:30 on an evening. So give me a several weeks notice on that, because that's what we'll have to set up a meeting room where we can get the general public into. So let us know, give us some head time for that, if you would, Randy. Are you thinking this would be in 2022?
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's going to we're going to need to talk internally with Phil, with our folks at BFW. But I'm guessing it's probably going to be the second or third week of January.
Okay.
Just because of the holidays, a lot of people are going to be out. We want to make sure that we get everything tightened up and buttoned up, and are able to get down there, present, and then, of course, be able to answer any questions that folks may have.
And you do understand that two of the members of this committee voted to tell you that you are to go by the first plan. There are no changes. You're to go by that first plan that was presented. That one right there, I guess. That's the one. Remember, there's not any restrooms in there, but that's what they voted for you to go by. So that's the plan you need to present.
Okay.
That's the original plan. So that's the one you have to follow.
Okay.
Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Well, I mean, if we're still in court, I mean, I thought I said that we could add the bathrooms for sanitary reasons.
No, wait a minute. You said that you made no changes.
Judge, we're doing what's right for the community. I mean, I said that, but whatever. My question, Randy, is so we'll get the numbers. How much in advance from the public meeting?
We'll try to get those to you at least. Well, I'm speaking for Phil. Phil, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Do you think we can get them numbers a week prior?
yeah, we'll want to make sure that we don't set that date before I have the majority of the numbers developed within the pro forma. And then recall, once we get the pro forma done and we know the operational piece, at that point in time, we'll also be able to then initiate the economic impact component and see what that is. So when we're talking numbers, the first set of numbers that will be seen will be the pro forma, not the economic impact. We can have a rough estimate as to what the economic impact would be from the development and the operations of those pieces. But once we nail down the pro forma and we know the number of events, we have the estimated number of individuals that it will draw, then we can finish that last piece on the economic impact, which is what our visitors' direct spending estimated to be at. So I just want to make sure that we have that clarity, and the pro forma numbers have to come and be nailed down before we can nail down the economic impact numbers. Now, with that said, as long as you and I are communicating as to what that date would be for the presentation, we'll make sure that we have it to them a week in advance so that they have an opportunity to review it and ask some questions before we get to that public meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure we have all numbers in hand so we can be prepared as a committee before we go presenting to the public. Thank you.
Yes.
That makes sense.
I had a quick question. And I know that I don't want to get in the middle of anything here. But in looking at this plan, now that we've got all of you, the committee is on here, there was discussion about the guardhouse. Now we've taken it out, and part of that is just from an aesthetic standpoint. As a group, do you want the guardhouse, you want to keep it, or would you like it to go away?
It wasn't in either plan, and it's really irrelevant whether it is in the plan or not, because there's nothing taking its spot. So it's irrelevant, really.
Is that good with the whole crew?
The vote, the vote has been made. The motion and seconded by Muller and Tracy, and the vote is 2-1 that we go with the first plan. So this is the first plan. Okay. Whether the guardhouse is in there or not really has nothing to do with that. It not being in there doesn't mean it's not going to be torn down.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just wanted some clarification.
Okay. Squire Tracy, you have something else?
Thank you, Judge. Randy, I too, and Judge as well, I think you've agreed as well in the past. The bathrooms, that's not a program. That's not only a need, a want, it's a have to. So since we're still talking about the plan, that's a have to.
Your motion was, Squire Tracy, we accept the first plan. The first plan is sitting in front of you.
That's Judge. That's fine. Not a problem at all.
Okay. All right.
Well, we will have an offline meeting with the team, and I will get some dates that we would like to kind of move forward with all this, and I'll be in touch with Charlie to then share and get that set up at the Paul Sawyer Library. And again, we'll be sure to get everything to you guys a week before that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Don't forget you're to be in, your conversation should be with Charlie Lewis.
Yes.
And not any members of the committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, seconded.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Randy and Shannon. Appreciate it. Sorry you had to go through the middle of everything. Charlie, you got something?
No, I just want to say thanks to everybody. I know it's tough, but at the end of the day, we're all one community. So Merry Christmas.
Okay, Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you all.
Guys, happy holidays.
Thank you.